Welcome to BPTV. I'm your host, Andy Amrine, and this is another of our Around Town series. Today, really special treat. We're down in the Strip District of Pittsburgh, and we're going to give you a tour of the terminal building. This is the old produce terminal, almost a 100-year-old building. I believe it was built in 1926, and they're going through a renovation project, and we're going to meet with the owner, Dan McCaffrey. It's his company that is renovating it, and also spend some time with Morgan, their marketing director, on it. So stay tuned. We got a real treat for you today. Dan, thank you for allowing us to come down to your building. How about introducing yourself to our audience and tell us a little bit about who you are?
Okay, Andy, number one, thank you.
My pleasure.
We at this stage, we almost can't get enough publicity. As you can see, this is quite a large puppy.
Yep.
It's 1,600 lineal feet along a street that hasn't really been a pedestrianized street for some time. So we're thankful to be with you and to have the chance to tell the story. My name is Dan McCaffrey. I lead McCaffrey Interests, but I'm not by any long shot the only important person that's played a hell of a role in doing these projects. But yeah, the two projects are what you see in front of you. Most people know the Strip District Terminal.
Sure.
It's been, as you say, 100 years old.
Yeah,
but
it's
it
getting
feels
up
like
close to 100 years.
Yeah, but it feels
here,
like when I saw it, it feels like it's been 99 years in neglect. So, it was a bustling place,
Sure.
but pretty much ignored for some major number of those 99 years. But I first came to Pittsburgh I got introduced to the cork factory and its owner, Chuck Hamill. And they were looking at doing a development, and it had kind of fallen apart. And I was able to, by sheer luck and maybe experience in the business, I was able to get it restarted. And Chuck very warmly, he and I have formed a partnership on that building. And as you know, the cork factory just did extremely well.
Yes.
And it was kind of a bell cow for the area, I think. And shortly after finishing it, we moved across the street and did another one, which was known as Lot 24. So those two things are the reason I'm standing here, because every time I came from the airport, I had to go along this street in front of this dilapidated old thing, and I kept looking at it and saying, there's a better day. There has to be a better day for that building, because it's so impressive on the one hand, and then it was so miserable on the other hand. A couple of little stands out in front and basically just cars parked up against it. So shortly after finishing our second building, the URA put out a request for proposal for this building. And of course, I couldn't hold myself back. We put in a response to the request for proposal, and we're fortunate in our efforts to be able to take control of it. And when we had control of this, I met the owners of the building across the street, 1,600, and I said, man, there's no point in us putting the money into this and making the guy across the street rich, so maybe I should go and try and buy his building. And they're two charming brothers that live in Buffalo, but had been long-time Pittsburghans. They were here for years, even running businesses out of the terminal.
Wow, okay.
So when I went and met them in Buffalo, we struck up a very cordial friendship, but a very tough business deal. They were characters, wonderful guys, and we ended up being able to acquire 1,600, which is across the street. So that's kind of the long and the short of it, and it's probably been over the course of 12 or 13 or 14 years already.
Right.
It's been quite a while.
Well,
So,
you're pretty much headquartered out of Chicago.
yes,
Okay.
we're headquartered. We do have 4 offices. Pittsburgh, Chicago, Denver. Denver's a smaller office, the newest one, and then in the general Washington and Virginia area. So we have 4 offices.
So then you've been in the commercial real estate business your entire life?
No.
So where'd you start? You were an astronaut?
No, almost. I was a physical education teacher,
Okay.
and I taught English and math too. But phys ed teacher, and then shortly after that, got involved in a real estate company back where I was at that time in Edmonton, Alberta.
Okay.
And that real estate company was at that time called Oxford, not the same Oxford you have here,
Okay.
but from time to time we were always confusing the two. But that Oxford then became what is now known as Brookfield. And Brookfield's one of the largest real estate companies in the world, with offices all over the world. But when they moved me from Edmonton, Alberta to Minneapolis, and then from Minneapolis to Chicago, and then they wanted me to move back to Toronto. And it was at that point I used the phrase to the chairman at the time. I said, "Gordon, I think I've developed a niche I have to scratch." He said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "I think I'd like to try and start my own business." And rather than throwing me out of the room, he was such a wonderful man. He said, "I think that would be good, for you and for all the rest." And he said, well, he made a very attractive proposition to me to stay for about another year. But during that year, he would, help me do this and that and the other thing. So it was truly a gift, because what he did for me took so much of the early anticipation and so much of the early nervousness out of starting my own company. So Gordon Arnell, the chairman of then Brookfield, is very near and dear to my heart. But that's how I got into real estate. I worked with them for 6 years, I guess, and was on a learning curve with them, and then applied it to my own endeavors.
So, but when you started with your own endeavors, you have some pretty pristine buildings now all across the country. Some award-winning buildings and facilities, do you not?
Yeah, quite a few. We've been very fortunate. And the funny thing is, like when I started on my own, one of my first buildings was in downtown Moscow.
Wow.
Moscow, Russia.
Okay.
And second sort of memorable project was in Albania. But when you start on your own thing.
So then you got international presence.
Well, it wasn't so much it was international presence. It was, please God, let me make $1.
Okay.
I had to. I run like I have to eat. The kids have to eat. I have to eat. Got to feed the dog. So yeah, but those two little opportunities presented themselves at a time when I had nothing else. So it's not like me saying, "Oh no, I don't think I want to go to Russia." I said, "Is there a chance to make $1? I'm going to Russia," and it was a fabulous experience. And so was the Albanian experience.
Pittsburgh. Why Pittsburgh? What brought you to Pittsburgh itself? I mean, if you were in Denver and Chicago and Florida and so forth, how did you end up in Pittsburgh here?
Yeah, sorry. A friend of mine in Chicago had spotted the cork factory.
Okay.
Which I didn't know the cork factory from anything, but he called me and he said, "Dan, do you think you can, I've got this project, it's in Pittsburgh, who do you think might finance it?" So I knew of a great pension fund, the Union Labor Life Insurance Company. They had helped me with a building I did in Chicago, a small one I did in Chicago. And I said, "Geez, you ought to call them. It's a great union town and they're a union pension fund.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they would step up." And I would say 4 or 5 weeks later, he said, "Thanks. They seem to have some interest." But he said, "I've just decided this thing is too big for me. I can't do it. Would you like to do it?" And I said, "Well, I mean, what is it? Where is it?" So I hopped on
Had you been to Pittsburgh before?
Never been to Pittsburgh,
Okay.
no. So I hopped on a plane, came here, and I literally fell in love with the building.
Yeah.
The cork factory. Now it was kind of like walking through either of these two.
Absolutely.
It was pretty bad.
It showed its age.
It was, oh my gosh. But I then went and met with Chuck Hamill, and we were able to reach a business deal that, required a lot of effort from me, but not a lot of cash. Chuck said, "Listen, it's sitting there. I'll put it in the deal with you if you can figure out something to do." So together we were able to, I think it's 305 apartments.
Right.
And I'll be darned.
And they're filled.
There was
It's filled.
there was no apartments around here.
Yeah.
And that thing filled like, I don't think we've ever built a building since that leased up faster.
Well, it was the first of its kind in
Oh, my
Pittsburgh.
God,
I mean,
was-
it's the crown jewel of the Strip District.
Isn't it?
so It's
Yeah, and it
gorgeous.
looks over the river, and we put in the pool and all this stuff. Next thing you know, we're overrun with
Right.
applications. For
Now you got a
people.
waiting list.
Yeah, right. It was so that was.
Well, and
that's how we got
I'm
here.
hoping and assuming with your terminal project, it's going to be the same.
I
mean,
do too.
I know we have a bump in the road with the what's going on in the world with the
Yeah.
pandemic, but that's going to be over, and you know,
Right.
I have a feeling this is going to fill up just as quick. Your 1600 building, you're pretty much leased on that one, are you
Right.
not?
Yeah, all the office space is leased, but we do have the main floor retail space, but it's gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And when we start having tenants coming in and out of there, hundreds of workers,
Yeah.
those spaces will be filled and will be very dynamic.
Now you've been working on this terminal project for what, 2 years or even longer? Even longer on it. Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long and winding road, and
Right.
that's not. Again, I want to emphasize, like, it's not negative reflection on anybody, but
No.
when you start to deal with civic entities,
Yes.
they have a responsibility, which is pretty darn serious. But it doesn't say that any of the members of that particular civic group have any experience in real estate.
Yeah.
So they have to take their time sorting out, okay, well, who's going to do a good job for us, and who's going to
Right.
take advantage of us, or who's going to be honest, who's going to be this, and now what's the plan?
Right.
So yeah, the process is long and arduous, but they have a responsibility to do that, because it will remain, like 100 years from now, it goes back to being a public building.
Right.
So they got that responsibility. But to make the story that you're asking about, it was a long and winding road.
That's worth it for you? Now you're two
Well-
plus years into it. The building is
Yeah.
still going through its renovation,
Right.
but it's night and day of what it was 2 years ago.
And the environment. I mean, the whole.
I mean, even the facade here is just
Yeah.
gorgeous
I mean,
compared to what it
We have
was.
sidewalks. There were
You
no
got
sidewalks
sidewalks.
over here. There were no street lights.
Right.
There are street lights.
Yes.
And I was out here last night, and people walking along and not on the road.
Correct.
sidewalks,
safely
safely,
moving
yeah.
through the Strip
Yeah,
District.
so it's a wonderful thing that,
Right.
that the public improvements, so this is not the Dan improvements, the public improvements are a fantastic investment for the city,
Right.
a great investment for the city. So if we were a catalyst for some of that happening, bravo.
Yeah.
Good.
So where do you see the building in a year?
Well, where do you see the pandemic in a year?
a good
Jesus,
question.
what's
Yes.
hello,
Good- very
Dr.
good
Fauci,
question.
Dr.
Yes.
Fauci, come in, please.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
We're standing by the building. Our investment group standing by the building. The city is standing by the building, and the building really is a standout building.
Right.
So I think in a year, it will be a hustling, bustling place,
Center of the Strip District. That's it.
center in many ways of the city. As nice as the building is, the new environment around it
Right.
shows it off really well. So, yeah, we've done a lot for the building, but have had to do very little to the building. Very little.
Now, when the building is fully functioning and
Mm-hmm.
occupied, is there going to be, say, a historic room to the building where you're showing the past
Yeah.
of what the terminal was?
Yeah, even across the street at 1600,
Mm-hmm.
the lobby, the lobby wallpapers are pictures of the Strip in the old times, and we replaced those giant windows. Those windows are in display in the lobby, and there's cable that is supposed to say this was the former cable building. It was a cable company's headquarters. And in here, in these passageways, it's not up yet, but we will be dedicating the passageways to showing the history
of it.
of the Strip District. And then the fact that we really haven't touched the building,
Right.
it's historic onto
Oh,
itself.
absolutely.
I think it could be with the best of intentions, we could mess it up if we started to think that we we could make it more historic than it is.
Well, can you at this point share with us any tenants or future tenants, or where
there's
you are in the process here?
Sure, we made an announcement down the other day, and the 4 tenants' names are now up. So we've got 4 tenants signed, leased, leases done, and they represent about 20%, 25% of the space. We also have, I believe it's 7 or 8 others that represent about 40% of the space. But I've made a deal with the tenants that they don't have to start building. They don't have to start fitting out their stores till we get a little more clarity
Right.
on this pandemic.
Right.
If you came along to me, Andy, and you said, God, I've got a dream of being in the terminal building, and I said, great, here, sign this lease. Then the next thing I do is start expecting you to pay me rent
Yeah.
when there's still people
Yeah.
locked up at home. You're not going to make it.
Right.
So we're trying to be both, I would call it wise. We're not neither being kind nor dumb. We're being wise. You can't expect people to come in, open a building, open their business, invest in it as heavily as I want them to, because I want their business to be a good business, strong business. You can't expect them to come in, open their business, and then say to them, well, you got to start paying the rent. I saw you
Yes,
had
with no customers
I saw you
yet.
had a customer
That's
today.
it.
Yeah. So we're trying to be. This is a time for collaboration. It's a time for collaboration, not for bullying people. So, but the interest is really there. I mean, as you're.
Oh, absolutely.
This little
That's
interview.
very interesting.
We had a guy last night, a small tenant. He used to be in the city market.
Okay.
And he said, boy, oh boy, and he was just raving. And he said, I can't imagine how many people will be going through that building a year from now. And so there's an enthusiasm. Every tenant we talk to is just like over the moon anxious. But we can't, they're not silly, and neither are we. But I'll tell you one thing. We may take a piece of it and reopen that city market.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, get a couple of. Now we won't be able to do it for 6 and 7 years in a row. I don't think. Who knows? But I don't think so, because ultimately you do have to pay rent, and the city market folks are not in a position to pay a lot of rent.
Right.
But why would I leave it empty when maybe we can put in the
You can
city
utilize
market,
it.
let some people take advantage of the space, and
It's a win for everybody.
It's a win for everybody, and
Yep.
out of those people, we may grow a tenant.
Right.
We may grow a tenant that says, "Hey, I'm doing so damn well here.
Yeah.
Let me have a store." So we're just in discussions about that now, but I feel, I can't announce it because we have a lot of stuff to go through yet.
Sure.
But I could say that we're really serious about it. It would be, I think, good for the city, and allow people to come down, and we got the space.
Yep.
We've got the space, so maybe we can do it for folks.
So over all the years you've been coming to Pittsburgh now, what are some of your favorites? What do you like about Pittsburgh?
Oh, I think, the number one thing I like about Pittsburgh is that we've been very successful and welcomed here.
Good.
So that's very nice.
That's who
My-
Pittsburgh is. We're very
Pittsburgh,
welcoming.
and my fellow development competitors, very nice people. It's a really nice environment, and there's a nice edge that is well deserved, because I think Pittsburghans always proud of their city. Of course,
Yep.
most people are proud of their city, but I think Pittsburghans are really excited, and not electrified, but they're really excited about the fact that they're a city on the upswing.
Yep.
And it's pretty damn obvious. It's not just because we have 2 buildings. It's all around you.
The whole city.
It's all the whole city, and it's doing very well, and the people are excited about their city and looking forward. Geez, it's so. We've made a lot of friends here, and it's a great city. I like coming here.
Well, we love having you here, and Dan, I appreciate you taking the time to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank
The
you.
building speaks for itself almost, and we just wanted a chance to get to know you a little bit better.
Well,
but
I'm delighted.
Welcome to the Strip District. No, welcome. You've been here for many years now, but thank you for what you're doing for our city.
Thanks so much, and thank you for taking this time because the message has to get out.
Yep.
It's slower getting out than it would have been if the roads were more packed, the streets were more packed. So we owe you something too. So thank you very, very much.
Do our best.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Morgan, we're in the heart of the terminal building now.
Right.
This is obviously a very large room, and I'm assuming this will be broken up into different tenants.
Right.
But what can you tell us about this part of the building itself?
Sure,
what can you
yeah.
tell us about the terminal
So
here?
this is a 1/4 mile long building. It's absolutely massive.
So you get your steps in every day.
We get our steps in, absolutely. We're carrying signs all back and forth. We have great furniture outside. But we are trying to kind of create place in some different areas throughout this stretch that's all very similar. So we put in these 3 passageways at 17th, 18th, and 20th in between these large stretches.
Okay.
And then in these we'll have
So
our
the building will
tenants.
be broken down into thirds then?
Right,
You're saying
correct. So
between the 3.
there's 4 phases total. So our two end caps at 21st and 16th, and then in between we kind of have these spaces where you can walk straight to the back of the building and get to the docks instead of just having to go all the way across the building and to the back. Just to kind of break it up, make it a little bit more interesting, give people places to meet up. Like we met up at 17th and Smallman, and I said, look for the lip couch and the painting on the stairs. So just kind of creating those interesting places that people can meet and enjoy themselves and enjoy the space.
So will the tenants have from front to back, or there are going to be different tenants in the back than the front?
It will depend. So there are...
You're open to any
Right.
ideas?
The team is super, super collaborative, and so we want to create space that works for whoever is coming in here. There are a lot of different concepts. It's not going to be a shopping mall. It's going to be a place for people in the Strip to come and enjoy and get their errands done. It's going to be a place for people from out of town to enjoy food and entertainment. So it needs to serve a lot of purposes, and we're open to that.
Okay. Any specifics with this building? What all did you have to do so far with the building? Is the floor the same, the ceiling's the same? You've pretty much tried to keep it a historical building.
Right.
So what all were the updates? Just water, power, walls are going to be
Those
different?
sorts of things, sort of the basics we kind of tried to modernize. But the floor, when it's polished and clean, you can see giant river rock underneath here because of the way that the floor was made. And then one interesting thing is that all of these doors were preserved from the original produce terminal and then hung.
That's all going to be on the dock side of the building?
Right. So we'll preserve a certain number of those just so people can check it out. They're totally original. We've done nothing to them. And then maybe we can do art projects or other sort of salvaged fun things with
that
the
creates
additional.
A challenge to your builders, your contractors who've been working in the building. It's not just something they just don't go down the street and buy everything new and put it in.
Absolutely.
They're working with the old to maintain the old, to keep it to its integrity of the building. That is quite a challenge.
Right, but it's something that I think this building deserves. We want to keep some of that really fun original aspects to it. It is a historic building, and that's so much of its charm. People don't mind peeling paint when they know that it's been around for
100 years.
Ever and ever. Yeah, This is the same paint my great-grandpa probably looked at when he was working at the terminal.
What have you personally enjoyed about this challenge? Take a minute and tell me who you are and what's your background and what brought you here to the terminal building, this project.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the marketing manager for the project. I'm a Pittsburgh native from Brookline. So I have spent my entire life coming to the Strip and enjoying it. So of course, from that note, my parents are super excited that I'm involved with the project.
Have you had them down here yet?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. I was guessing that.
Yeah. Hey, Mom.
Your first day on the job, they said, when can I come?
Yeah, exactly. And it's been fun too because we had an artist yesterday who stopped down and his dad came with him and he was like, could I bring my dad inside? And I was like, of course, yeah. Like everybody should come check it out and enjoy it. And I really want to, and all of us on the team want to make it a space for the community. So I think that we're achieving that through events and, like I said, kind of creating places where people can come down and sit and enjoy the property, have their lunch, meet up with friends. And we from our office have a really great view of the benches at 20th.
Okay.
And so we watch people bring their dogs down and hang out or meet up on bikes and lock them up at the building and then sit down for lunch. So
Well, what kind of events are you planning here in the future?
So we have a drive-in theater that's actually going to be at the adjacent lot at 21st and Smallman, and we're working with Row House Cinema in Lawrenceville for that. And then we're also going to do a series of markets. More details on those to
Sure.
be determined. But October 25th, from 11 to 3, we're going to have a bunch of local farmers and vendors come down for a fall-themed market, and then we're going to continue those as we kind of learn more about what people want to see here and what the local businesses are interested in. So we're really taking cues from the people of Pittsburgh to see what they want and to kind of cater to a broader audience and make everybody feel welcome
And
here.
how can people keep in touch with you and find out about these events that you're going to be doing?
Facebook, Instagram are great. We're SD Terminal on Instagram, and then just search Strip District Terminal for the Facebook. But that is the best way, or on our website. We're always keeping everything updated and trying to make
Changes every day.
Right, exactly. We have, especially right now, everything's changing. We're trying to figure out how to keep people safe while bringing them here. And of course, it's a little bit harder for us to do anything virtual because it matters so much for people to come to the building.
You got to
be
be
comfortable.
for me, just driving by for the last 50 years looking at this building, it's this past 6 months. It's the first time in a while I've been in
Yeah.
here, and you got to check it out.
Absolutely.
It's a great feel to be back in this building again.
Yeah, definitely. And we hope everyone will feel that way and will enjoy the sort of changes and then continuity also that we're bringing to the space.
An amazing building, an amazing story, and amazing people. You put all that together and you have the terminal building here at the Strip. Can't wait to see what this building is going to look like in another year. The number of people in this area, the Strip District, it's another huge asset to Pittsburgh itself. So thank you for watching BPTV. I'm your host, Andy Amrine, and we'll see you around town soon. Morgan, we're in the lobby of the 1600 building, and Dan had mentioned some murals and some original windows.
Right.
Is that what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so this was salvaged from, this was formerly the cable company building, and so we have some elements from that old building, including the window frames. And we have some really fun artwork from old Pittsburgh here. And one story we were just chatting about is the banana factory explosion. It happened in the 1930s. A fellow went into work one day at the Pittsburgh Banana Company, turned on the exhaust fan in the ripening room, and there was a giant explosion.
Wow.
So bananas were propelled through St. Stanislaus. They were all over the streets. And the fellow, I believe his name was Peter, he was covered in rubble and banana and luckily was not hurt. And so we've been talking about some ways to incorporate the banana factory because it's a great story. I'm
is.
from here. I'd never heard of it.
I had never heard that
yeah,
story either.
so one of our counterparts in Chicago was doing some research and came across that. And I feel like everybody should know about
That's it. Well, it's with Pittsburgh, a lot of stories.
Yeah, absolutely.